What happens if you just focused on your existing customers and nobody else?
Yeah.
Right? It's totally scary to most people. But that mindset works because it allows you to see, okay, you know what? I only need 9,000 SKUs instead of 9 million, right? I only need to focus, I only need 3,000 to be a $100,000 business, or a $10 million business or a $100 million business. I need 5 orders a year, right? And these are the channels on how they get engaged. It makes it a lot smaller.
Yeah.
It makes it much more manageable and achievable. And so, as a wartime marketer, I say to people, don't be worried about new customers. Just focus on your existing ones and you'll get new customers.
Welcome back
to another episode of the Innovate on Purpose podcast. Hosted by Matt Mueller,
best-selling author of The Mindful Innovator and Rethink Retail's top retail expert.
We help retail leaders find clarity so they can grow their businesses purposefully.
We will uncover mindful tips, innovative solutions, and purposeful leadership advice and strategies that you can apply immediately to your retail innovation.
Are you ready to innovate on purpose?
Hey, before we jump into the episode today, I just wanted to say thank you for hitting the play button. You being here fires me up, and I cannot wait to share with you the insights that are going to make a difference in your business. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and leave a review so I can reach as many retail leaders as possible. They too need to hear this. Okay, let's do it. Welcome to Innovate on Purpose, the podcast for retail and CPG companies who are tired of endless pivoting and ready to focus on initiatives that actually drive results. I'm your host, Matt Mueller, and if you're looking to make a real impact instead of just checking boxes on the latest industry trends, you're in the right place. Today, I have a great guest here today, someone that I've been speaking to for quite some time now, Josh Rockoff. He is a superstar, and I'm so glad that he is here today because he's challenging everything that you can think, that everything that you know about what it takes to build a compelling retail brand. Josh brings serious credentials to this conversation. He's the former CEO of Kmart, and he's the current president of Modell's Sporting Goods and a principal consultant and advisor for Rethink Retail. Having led major retail operations through both challenges and transformations, Josh understands the real constraints retailers face, and more importantly, he knows how to innovate within those constraints to drive actual results. Josh is going to show us how any retailer, whether you're running a single location, a small chain, or even an established business looking to innovate, you can build a compelling brand with just $180. That's right, $180, and a little bit of strategic thinking. This isn't theoretical advice from someone who's never managed a P&L or has the responsibility of dealing with vendor negotiations. This is battle tested and something that you're going to want to listen into. So Josh, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, and remind me to pay you that, the $180 for that introduction. That's amazing.
Look at that. You're doubling the P&L cost right now, just there. Of course, Josh. Well, I mean, I'm definitely blown away with your experiences from everything from Kmart and the way that you are building brands back. Like thinking about Modell's, as soon as I say it, I'm starting to sing the song in my head. That jingle is just so catchy. I will spare the audience, and we won't have to sing it today. But
yep, you got to go to Moe's.
Got to go to Moe's, yeah. So it's pretty cool to see what you're doing. I know the brand has disappeared for a while, and now it's back, and you're leading that charge. And it's so cool to see the website back up and running, and see some amazing things. So kudos to you for leading that charge.
Well, thank you. Look, the reality is that, like you said, the businesses that we're working on. So it's not a normal opportunity to go in and be able to take 4 dormant brands who are still getting traffic, who's still getting engaged with. People still think the sites are up and the businesses are there. And Modell's is one of the perfect examples. Modell's Sporting Goods really stopped operating in 2022. Yet the site before, like a week or two before I actually joined, I looked at the numbers and it was getting 40,000 visitors. 40,000 visitors a month.
Wow.
And the site was dead. Like you couldn't go on there. You couldn't buy anything. You couldn't go there. Mart, which is also a business I'm relaunching hopefully in the next couple of weeks, that business gets 60,000 visitors a month. And it hasn't been able to sell anything on that site since 2023. So these are businesses that have staying power, they have longevity. And that's the challenge that the investors have really made to me is how do you take a business that has essentially defunct, that's still getting traffic, still has name recognition, still has people engaging with it, but you have no paid media spent. How do you rebuild it? Now, the cool thing is I've done this before, and that's the real fun part. I haven't done it 4 times, I will admit. So Modell's obviously is now live all at once. So I'm doing Modell's, Steinmart, Linden's and things, and the Franklin Mint. That's not normal, right? I'll admit this is a little daunting even for me, but it recognizes the opportunity, which is how do you take a business with no paid media spend and bring it back to life? And that's what we're doing. So the way I say it is, how do you do it when you have a total marketing spend of $180? Now, what that really means is how do you do it without using paid media? And so ideally, there's a lot of ways. Email is a huge one. SMS is a huge one. Even though it is paid media, it's the cheapest form of paid media. And then there's obviously the other aspects. I'm doing things that are out of the box. I'm doing affiliate marketing, which is you pay for play, right? If it works, I'll pay you. If it doesn't work, I'm not paying you anything. You do wind up spending more money, but you're also getting the performance up front, and you get to keep the money up front, and you get to see if there's returns on it. So if you're seeing a high level of returns related to that channel, then you know what to do or what not to do. But there's also the out of the box thinking. LinkedIn, press, right? Also, there's posting on articles posted about you. I've done almost no marketing at all, and we already got picked up twice. We started posting on social media. Really a simple line. What happens if I told you Modell's is back? And we already had a press release. It was literally a press release that got posted. Within 4 hours, a news article got posted about Modell's coming back from a Pittsburgh television station. It went viral, and that is fantastic. And then I didn't send out anything. I just posted online. And there's a Labor Day weekend article that came out that said, hey, Modell's is back, and you can buy your Labor Day gear and your back-to-school gear on Modell's. And so the reality is that, again, this is taking a business that has name recognition. And Modell's has it. You got to go to Mo's.
Yeah.
Mitch Modell and that Modell family did a fantastic job of really just building this presence. I grew up with it. There was plenty of others that I know who grew up with it in the Northeast.
Absolutely.
Ironically, of the site that we're now operating, we have a couple of orders from New York, but the vast majority of our orders are not even in the Northeast. They're in the South, they're in the Midwest, they're in the West, they're in the mid-central states, but they're not in the Northeast. And whether that trend will continue, it remains to be seen. But the reality is that's got to mean that people are transients now. People have left the Northeast. They grew up, they moved, but they took the brand with them. And now we have a national brand again, and I'm not doing that much yet. So our real issue right now is product. Right. So I've gone from being a wartime marketer, which basically means somebody who goes into these kind of businesses, that goes into these distress situations or special situations and gets them back into profitability and gets them back to an operational state. And now I'm turning into a merchant, which is fantastic and a lot of fun. But it's a race. It's a race of what do I need to have to get people to buy and buy more consistently. And it's fun. I will say it's fun, but it's daunting.
Yeah.
And while I'm doing that for Modell's, I'm doing it for Steinmart.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of strategy that has to go into this. I think a lot of us don't realize how blessed we are working for retailers that have budget, that have these massive amounts of dollars that you could spend on marketing and advertising and just for the tools that you use. But to have to take all that away and put the constraints in to say, hey, if you had no budget at all, how would you do this? You have to come up with some innovative solutions. And that's exactly what you're doing with these distressed brands. So if you were to have a budget, and you were at one of these retailers that had a great budget, what would you say is no, I'm going to stick with this one particular thing that I do when I don't have budget? What's that distress tactic that you would continue to use no matter what brand you're in?
So I think it's actually a little interesting you asked this question, because I've been thinking about this a lot as I first took on the role and then obviously operating these businesses. The reality is I think paid media is really meant for quick strikes, right? It's for operational awareness. It's not meant to be a standardized tactic, like the primary bread and butter tactic.
Mm-hmm.
Still think email and SMS is where it's at, to be honest. That's number one. SEO is there. It's now really turning into AI SEO.
Yeah.
Versus just traditional SEO. But I still think the tried and true tactics from 2004 are still there and still be necessary and still should be used. The reality for me is I'm not entirely sure paid media is as useful as it once was. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. There's plenty of cases, and even in the case of Dress Barn and Pier 1, who have just started rolling out paid media, they're seeing a lot more revenue through because of paid media. And I don't want to discount that. But the reality is the problem with paid media is like being on a drug. It's kind of, there's a fury that automatically runs, and you also want to encourage that fury because you generate more revenue out of it, but then you have to look at your cost.
Yeah.
And your profitability is part of that. So what I've been finding is almost by not having that budget, it allows me to go back to sort of marketing 101, which is where do you find the traffic? And the reality is it's not as simple as 1, 2, 3 anymore. There's TikTok shop, and there's TikTok, right? That when Modell's was growing up or was out there, they didn't have a TikTok account. It just didn't exist. Same thing for Steinmart and Linds and Things. That's a new, obviously, channel that we have to embrace and do more with. But then there's the other sides of all these things too. So I think email and SMS, I'm going to use the press. I think the press is a fantastic pulpit by which you can not only embrace, but you can talk through things. LinkedIn is a fantastic player, especially considering the people who are more mature in their careers now used to shop at Modell's and Steinmart, and their parents shop there too. And so it's really kind of leveraging and pushing on those things. There's guerrilla marketing, right? I love to say it. I remember what DoubleClick did. They were trying to find job applicants when they first came out. And so what they offered is free coffee in Grand Central Station. They wound up winning their CFO. Instead of paying a big agency hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a CFO search, they gave away coffee. It probably was 10, 20 grand worth of coffee. And they wound up finding their CFO. And so, and amongst a number of other candidates. And it was guerrilla marketing tactic. It was totally grassroots, and it worked. And you look at a lot of these name brands from Fiore to Glossier, they've used those types of tactics to really grow. And so that's the reason why it's something that I'm looking at embracing. And if we can get the jingle out there, we can start to get people to start singing it along. One of the big campaigns we're about to roll out is if you have a ticket stub with the Modell's coupon on it, you can still use it.
I love that. I think I have a couple. I do.
Right? We just have to prove that you have the ticket, and we'll take a picture of it. You have to have it with your face on it, like you standing there. But if you have it, and I don't care how many times you use it, you're welcome to use it forever if you want to.
Yeah.
But we are now rolling it out.
It's a VIP
it can only
club.
be you.
I love it.
Right? And so that way, I think, that's 10% off or 15% off. It's bringing back what made Modell's. And the same thing with all these other brands. Why not? And it's fun.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely it's all about having that fun, and I definitely could see like there being a TikTok gotta go to Mo's dance coming out. So
yep. Oh, that's a great idea. I think I'm gonna have to hire you for that, Matt.
Oh boy, I don't know if you want that. You might lose business, honestly. So you mentioned like there's like 40,000 people coming to the website every single month at Modell, 60,000 at Steinmart. That means that there's like customer data that you have at your fingertips here. Like, how can you leverage that information to really take advantage of that?
It's a great question. So one of the things we have is obviously we have people's order history, as well as all the people who subscribe to the newsletters and stuff. What's great about it is that order history told us, while dated, also told us what they were buying. And one of the other aspects of it is what are they interested in? So are they interested in the Boston Bruins? So a couple of people bought Boston Bruins gear, like blankets and home accessories. That's awesome. That means I need to have more home accessories. What people are searching for. And so the goal is, one of the things I always try to say to people is, if I don't get a person to buy, I really want them to abandon their cart. Because I know their intent. I can start marketing to them based on their intent. Mm-hmm. And people are like, well, especially investors, they get really skittish about that. They're like, how do you not want people buying? That's terrible. I'm like, I'm not saying I don't want them buying. Yeah. But if they're not going to buy, I want to know what they're trying to buy. And that way, then I can try to get them converted. Otherwise, they're anonymous and I don't know who they are. Now, there's lots of tactics out there where you can take and identify people who are anonymous, that anonymized traffic. You can put email addresses or names or phone numbers or whatever to them. But the best way for me to get those people engaged is to get them to put something in their cart and see who they are, see what they want, see what they're searching for, and then responding to that. So when we first launched Models, the first thing that people asked for was resistance bands, exercise gear, strength and conditioning gear, even weightlifting gloves. Now there's probably 25 different weightlifting gloves. There's 46 different resistance bands on the site, and I add in ones every single day or every single week. And the ironic part is the resistance bands people still want was the first ones I added on. Those are the top search ones.
Yeah.
And then things like footwear, right? We're going into the fall sports season, especially in high school and middle school and elementary school. And people want cleats. They want football cleats and soccer balls and soccer shin guards and baseball, so baseball gear, which we've already kind of moved out of, I was bulking up on, but people are not shopping that anymore. They're looking for soccer and football and lacrosse.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting as you see the patterns, but it still goes back to, okay, what did that person buy or what are they searching for? How are they engaging and how do I tag them? So then I can send personalized content to them. And that's the first of just being able to give, it makes it easier for me to make sure I have the product on the site. So I don't try to add in everything, but it also makes it much more manageable of, hey, here's what you bought in the past. Do you want to buy it again?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're seeing that intent. You're knowing what's going into that shopping cart and what are the potential sales. But I also like that you're looking at the calendar as well and saying, okay, well, we're out of that baseball season. We're going into school and football. And so now we need to adjust not only, what the intent of that consumer was, but also the relevance of it. And it doesn't make sense at this point in time. So thinking about those two, like the calendar and, that base consumer of what their intent and purchase is so important.
Yeah. So important.
Yeah. So I think one thing that retailers really want to know is like, where are the opportunities to actually improve margins? Like margins is a big thing as we have like tariffs that are crushing us and we have all these other things that we can't control out there. What are some ways that brands out there today can control those margins?
So the interesting part is I ran into this at Kmart and I ran into this in other businesses that I've worked on over the years. You can only make so much money from the product you sell. Like you can raise prices, which obviously has usually an adverse effect in terms of your buying customer. You can add subscription programs in place where you offer discounts, but you offer a long-term. Hopefully you get in on purchase 2 or purchase 3 or purchase 4. But the problem is you can only make so much from product sales, which means that you have to offer other ways for revenue to come in that are not related to sales of product. So things like extended warranty plans, shipping insurance, return insurance, extended warranty plans, and even loyalty programs. Mm-hmm. Because all of those programs, if you look at Amazon Prime, that's a loyalty program. But it also offers, it's a huge revenue driver for them. They're making more money from a customer buying more on their website. So Amazon, I read a report from them, like a public release where they were releasing their quarterly earnings a number of years ago. And they said that if a non-Amazon Prime customer, they can count on them for 4 orders a year. A Amazon Prime customer they can count on for 27 orders a year.
Wow.
And so you look at that and you're like, okay, what's the average order size and all of that? But leave that out for a second. They're getting paid for more orders that they just put in their pocket. Yes, they're offering a lot of services. They obviously offer, Amazon TV and Amazon Video and Amazon Cloud services and shopping and others, and obviously the Prime program. But the reality is that they're making money and they're getting more orders out of it.
Yeah.
And so that to me is your indicator. Like I will happily give people 2-day shipping if you pay me, $12, $13, $14 every single month. And that's just going into my pocket. That's the way you can mature your revenue streams. You can count on it. It's almost like a subscription program, but you're not committing any, working capital to it. It's based on somebody purchasing, and then only then are you having to deal with it. But you're consistently generating that revenue every single month. That to me is a huge revenue driver. And so that's the way I've been thinking about business over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years. which
Yeah.
is, okay, there's only so much you can make on your product or your primary business. So where else can you make money? And then how do you grow it exponentially? So at Kmart, we figured out really quickly that we were not going to make the money on product. Like, it just wasn't there. So what did we do? Started selling extended warranty plans. And you don't do it on food, but I use this as the sort of example. You could, as long as you buy a 4-pack of Pringles, again, knowing that you can't get extended warranty on food, you can essentially get an extended warranty on it. And you mechanize your sales force, your in-store workers, your other workers, make them part of the compensation model. And all of a sudden, you can turn this into a massive revenue driver. Like, we're talking hundreds of millions, which is at scale, there's your profit, right?
Absolutely.
Now it takes away the tariffs conversation. It takes away some of those other things that are limiting your growth and also weighing on your profit. And it makes it much more manageable because now you have revenue streams that are not tied to, okay, I'm now going from 8 points to, or 12 points to an 8 points because of tariff pressures. No, you can keep it at 8 points and still be making tons of money. And now you're much more price competitive because your competitors have raised their prices.
Yeah, it's definitely smart to diversify your business and not just focus in, of course, on your staple, which is your product. But there's so much out there that you can also create these other streams of revenue. And Amazon's a great example. I think it's like smart to think about, like, as a brand, like, what are other people doing? What are other brands doing out there to drive those extra sales, and look at them as a kind of like the inspiration, like Amazon, like a great example of being able to put, Prime out there. But then there's other brands out there that are using retail media and having brands pay them money so they can advertise on their website or advertise in their stores, on their shopping carts. So there's so many different ways that we can find that extra revenue stream.
I mean, I think also one of the bigger aspects of it is, when you start talking to business customers and manufacturing companies who are selling to B2B, not D2C or B2C, that's a huge market, right? So one of the comments that I hear quite a bit, and last year I worked as chief marketing officer of a manufacturer in the RV, ATV, and marine space called Camco. People want the Amazon experience. They still want it. They just want it in B2B. So if you can say to your B2B customers, hey, this is what you buy every September or every August or every April, why don't I just have it automatically go to you? And if you buy 5 more, I'll get you to the next tier. So you're just getting a discount on it, and it's just automatically showing up, just like Subscribe and Save, not to take the trademark from Amazon. People like that. They don't want to have to think about it, right? Yeah. And you're saving them money. And you're, and it's showing up on the shelf at the right timeline, the right timing.
Yeah.
That's huge. And so if you think about it, that while the B2C and D2C customer is substantial, the B2B side is way bigger. The companies that can do that, even in an average way. We're not saying you have to be an A student, like be a C, C minus, D student. You can still hit it out of the park and still take those same tactics and apply it over there.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, a B2B sale at the end of the day is they're a consumer too, right? So that's why that they use Amazon at home. Why wouldn't they want to use it at business if they like that experience?
Exactly.
So just thinking about them just as a simple consumer is definitely important. Yeah. Now, what's like the biggest mindset shift? I want you to think about, those bigger retailers are out there. What's the biggest mindset shift that you've had to help retail teams make to see brand building as accessible rather than expensive? Because everyone wants to spend the money, but if we have to make it more accessible, what's that mindset shift that you've helped retail teams with?
It's a very good question. And it's one that is possibly one of the hardest for people to wrap their minds about, is you don't have to spend money. So the reality is I go into these companies when they're in dire straits. So usually a lot of these firms have brought in the big bug guns like an Alex Partners or a Booz or, McKinsey, and they haven't seen the results. So then I get hired. And people are like, well, we've tried the big guns, or we've tried these, people who are so-called experts, who are CEOs of these titans of industry, and they weren't able to do it. So why are you going to be successful? And I'm like, well, the first step is it's a mindset. It's a wartime mindset versus it being sort of a growth mindset. So there's really 2 types of people out there. There's distressed and there's growth. There's nothing wrong with either side, but growth people are used to dealing with things that are well established and making them grow. Whereas distressed mindset is it's gone into turmoil where the business is retracting, revenues are plummeting in some cases, or just falling off. And they need to, obviously stop that bleeding, and then move it back to a growth opportunity. And so in those businesses, it's a different mindset. And the first thing that people get scared of is, well, if I don't know if I can't spend the money, I'm not going to grow. And I'm like, no, you can still not spend the money and still grow. And that's what we were talking about earlier in this conversation, which is you can do things in organic ways. You can use cheaper mediums like email and SMS. You can use more varied applications. You can use even just organic, content. You can use, creators and influencers at not the big guns. You're not going after Taylor Swift or Travis Kelce here. You're going after Tommy DeVito, right? The Tommy Cutlets, who now is unfortunately at the New England Patriots. And so you can go after those B or C or D level talent who may have 300 or 500 or 1,000 followers, not, the million or 10 million.
Yeah, that's a luxury.
And the reality is you can do more with those smaller talent, not to mention they will be more incentivized to help you. And so that's the idea, is that if you take the dollars out, that's why I use this $180 figure. Mm-hmm. People look at $180, they're like, wait a minute, I spend more on coffee a month. I'm like, okay, first off, that's your problem. But second, that's fine, but you don't have it anymore. And so that's the first thing that people, it's a shock that people have. They're like, can we still see results? At Campco, we had this fantastic person running organic. She was young, she was very engaged, very vibrant. And she posted about something completely not that sexy, which was a trailer lift. And this thing got 70 million Instagram views. 70 million. And I was like, and this thing wasn't sexy at all, right? It was literally, you stuck it under a trailer to lift it up so you could change a tire. But what it made was, it was about the person. She did a very good job. She was very appealing. She had the right tone in her voice. There was no pictures of her, but there was just, she had the right tone. She had the right way she delivered it, and it was engaging, and people really embraced it. So it was, other than her salary, it was free. And that's what we're talking about, is you still have the same level of impact or better. You just have to know who your customer is, know how they want, what they want, how to engage. And then don't be scared that if you lose your budget, you're going to be out of business, because that's not the case.
Yeah. So it's having that wartime mentality. I love thinking about it that way. It's a great term. So having that wartime mentality, I think is definitely something that we could all use every once in a while. And it's a great mindset shift. So great advice, Josh. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to leave the audience with, and saying, hey, if there's one takeaway, there's one thing that you need, and I know you gave a ton of great advice so far already. Is there one other thing that we need to share with the audience today?
The reality is that, we're going into somewhat uncharted times. There's obviously inflationary pressures, there's tariffs, there's others. The way I look at all of this is, you still can have the market to yourself. You still can do your job. You still can really embrace, and your customer will embrace you. Just got to know who your customer is. I go back to Modell's. I was blessed in a sense that I have order history. I have customers. I have millions of email addresses that I can work against. But it still comes down to, what does my customer want? Right? What does my 2025 customer want? And how do I get their parents, their grandparents, and their kids, and maybe their grandkids all engaged with this brand? And I also don't need all of them. Right? I need a subset or a subset. And that, to me, is really, if you can know who your customer is, you know what they want, and you can really kind of key in on that, you can do exceptionally well, and you can be the titans of industry, and you can be, get to where you want to be in terms of your career and obviously the businesses you're working on. That's the mindset that I always preach to people, is know thy customer. Mm-hmm. And then the second part of it is aim for that existing customer. Like, lots of people want new customers. Oh, I got to get new customers. That's the only way we're going to grow. I'm like, what happens if you just focused on your existing customers and nobody else?
Yeah.
Right? It's totally scary to most people. But that mindset works, because it allows you to see, okay, you know what? I only need 9,000 SKUs instead of 9 million. right? I only need $3,000 to be $100,000 business, or a $10 million business or a $100 million business. I need 5 orders a year, right? And these are the channels on how they get engaged. It makes it a lot smaller.
Yeah.
It makes it much more manageable and achievable. And so, as a wartime marketer, I say to people, don't be worried about new customers. Just focus on your existing ones and you'll get new customers.
Yeah. When you focus on every one, you're focusing on no one. So it totally makes sense. And
exactly.
Great advice that you're laying down today. Josh, thank you so much for being on the show today. Pleasure having you on. Great conversation, and would love to have you back on again to even dig a little bit deeper into Models and hopefully Steinmart next time.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, Josh. Thank you. We have made it to the end of another episode. Thank you for tuning in. A couple of things before you go. If you have found value in this episode, I am sure you'll find value in what we have coming up. So please subscribe so you will have access and know when we launch the next episode. Also, leave a review. The more reviews we have, the further our reach becomes, and I truly want this to be heard by as many leaders as possible. Don't hog this all for yourself. I would love to hear your insights on this topic, so meet me on social media at Matt Mueller Innovation on LinkedIn and Instagram. And lastly, if you want to learn more about my story and what I can do for you and your company, go to themindfulinnovator.com. I would love to help you innovate on purpose. Until next time, just remember, bring a level of awareness to each conversation, each observation, each moment, and you can create great change in this world. Thank you.